Thank you to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different. As you guys know, I draw a lot of Honkai Star Rail characters alongside with a lot of Genshin Impact characters. And more recently, I've been tackling doing redraws of some Genshin Impact illustrations that I've done in the past, but I don't want to be stuck doing just redraws. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. I decided to choose two different characters. So one is Beidou from Genshin Impact, the other one is Boothill from Honkai Star Rail. Now, I won't explain the entire premise until a little bit later, as I will have like a tiny small reveal, but we are going to start off with sketching out Beidou first, and then we'll sketch out Boothill afterwards. So I want you guys to do me a small favor and leave me a comment or suggestion under this video, letting me know what other Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail character you would like me to draw. The only caveat is that I will be only picking characters that I have not drawn yet, so just keep that in mind, and it'll be explained a little bit later in this video. So I was having a little bit of deja vu with this particular pose. I totally forgot that I drew this one of Kaya on a live stream, kind of like it was either the beginning of June or the end of May, but I decided to go with it anyways, and we'll just change the head position and the hand potentially. So we are starting off with Beidou, like I mentioned earlier, and Beidou has been a character that's been suggested for me to draw for quite a while, and I have not tackled this drawing of her at all. So I don't know if it's because of intimidation, or I didn't have any ideas, or maybe just the thought of not being able to do her justice. I didn't really want to tackle her at that time, but I feel a little bit more comfortable drawing her. So I think this year and 2 years ago, I think I've had sketch commissions of me drawing Beidou, I guess, like at a convention, and it was like fun to draw her, so I thought it'd be a good idea just to get her out of the way and just draw her today. So my plan for just like in general, in terms of like just the general roadmap, I would like to draw more of the characters that I haven't drawn quite yet. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I've been doing more like redraw kind of attempts because I want to kind of replenish and replace a lot of my old Genshin Impact prints, because they're like, at this point, they're pretty much almost 5 years old. So, or like some of them might be 4 to 3 years old, depending on what time I actually did draw them. But I would like to replace them and update them with their like a new look and kind of in like my current state of how I draw, alongside with just getting rid of all of those illustrations that have that flat solid colored background. It was funny because I think I mentioned this in a different video, but when I was telling my friend that I wanted to make more art prints and stuff for future conventions, whenever I want to do like tabling again, I had a bunch of prints that I wanted to replace, and she immediately knew it was the ones with the solid colored backgrounds because they were so old. But it was also because she's seen them so often whenever we tabled for the last few years. So my goal is to kind of do a back and forth. I would like to do a lot more redraws of some of the characters, not every character, but most of the characters that I've already previously drawn, because I think most of the ones that I did end up drawing are the ones that I just personally like the character quite a bit. So I would like to do that first, as well as sprinkling in and tackling a lot more of the characters that I haven't drawn yet. And Honkai Star Rail is definitely on my radar because I have not drawn a lot of the characters from that particular game. And I don't know why. I took kind of like a break around the same time I took a break from drawing like Genshin Impact as well. I'll see if I'll talk about it in a different video, but we are finishing up with Beidou's sketch for the most part. I am not in love with the sketch, but I think it's like okay at this point to kind of just move on. So before we move on to Boothill, let me tell you a little bit more about TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat is a fun and exclusive Japanese snack box featuring unique and exclusive flavors straight from Japan. Each box is filled with a variety of full-size Japanese snack items like limited edition Kit Kats, uniquely flavored Japanese chips, and occasional Japanese sodas that are only available in Japan for a limited time. Looks like this is a very cute type theme for this month's box. While Sakuraco is a monthly Japanese artisan snack box that supports local Japanese snack makers, each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese teas and a special Japanese tableware, which this time it was these beautiful, lovely chopsticks. Apparently, the snacks from this box are also more focused on the island of Kyushu. Both boxes come with a 24-page cultural guide, and I love that it includes information regarding ingredients and allergens of each of the snacks, but also informs you of little tidbits of information revolving around culture and traditions in Japan. You can read more about the popular konbini or convenience stores in Japan, or even more about information of Kyushu. Each month has a different theme, meaning that you get to try out a whole new selection of new treats and snacks every month. For example, TokyoTreat's box theme for the month of June is Konbini Snackin', while Sakuraco's box for the month of June is The Taste of Kyushu. So let's go ahead and try out the tea. I did not want to spill the tea in the office, so I decided to go up to the kitchen to prepare the tea. So sorry for the strange angle. This tea is a very lovely green tea from the Kagoshima prefecture, and I had it with the rest of this kind of like kokuto donut from earlier. I liked a lot of the snacks from both of these boxes. I am a big fan of matcha, so I love the Kit Kats, but there's like small little gummies. You could have like something savory or crispy or salty or sweet. So if you would like to get a box for yourself or want to give these as a lovely gift to your family or friends, then do check out the links in the description. Thank you again to Sakuraco and TokyoTreat for sponsoring today's video. Now, on to the second sketch, which is going to be of Boothill. So now with Beidou done, we can move along to Boothill. So I forgot to mention this at the very beginning. I am making all of these in the same kind of canvas size. So all of my smaller prints that I do of like the individual characters, and they're kind of capped more or less on the simple side, and it's anywhere between like, I guess like torso up or just like headshot of the character. So they are done on a A5 or like 5x7 canvas because that's what I tend to print at. And if I wanted to, I could go bigger if I wanted to do more detailing or just wanted a larger resolution or something like that. But I want to keep that ratio the same because sometimes cropping any of my like 8.5x11 or A4 drawings, it's just kind of weird cropping it to be a lot thinner, I guess, when I'm chopping off like significant amount of like the left or the right side to make sure it fits into that canvas size. And because of that, I don't want to draw like a pose that's too, how to explain, like it needs too much of the body where the cropping will look weird, and I don't want to make the character too small on a small print, if that makes sense. I don't mind making the character a little bit smaller if we're on like in an 8.5x11 or like 11x17, 11x14, whatever print size you want to do. But for like the smaller prints, I do like them to be a little bit more focused on the face and like the actual character's presence. So that's what I'm going to be doing. But I had a little bit more fun doing Boothills. It might look a little bit weird and I won't know until I actually do the coloring and rendering. So we'll see, and I'll keep you guys updated whether or not I will actually end up liking this piece or not. But if you're unfamiliar with my process, for both of the sketches and just like how I sketch in general, I try my best to block in our pose and composition with a larger kind of like round flat painting brush, and then that way I can kind of plan out the body. Also, I decided to pull out my Star Rail account just because I wanted to use the character archive to do a quick turnaround for some of the sides of Boothill, because I did not know if there was like anything on his hands that I needed to be aware of, if he was bending his fingers, or if I'm going to show like certain parts of his shoulder. I wanted to make sure I had like a picture of the left and a picture of the right side. So I did take a few screenshots afterwards, and yeah, I just love using the character archive if I can. Sometimes the in-game models is not like super accurate compared to the official art. So sometimes for details, you can kind of pick and choose which one you're going to follow a little bit more faithfully towards. I usually do a mix of both, but if I see something very specific on like the official art, I most likely will follow that rather than on the in-game model, just because it might be just due to like limitation of what they can do with the in-game model or something like that. So I tend to follow the official art a little bit more. But back to the process, after I kind of fill in our rough sketch of blocking things in, I will make a new layer and we will switch brushes to the sketch round and start doing like I guess it's like a rough to a clean sketch, because I will clean it up a little bit as we go. And I've been using more layers for sketching. I think in the past, and I've talked about this during Venti's redraw video, that for some reason I was very strict on myself with merging my layers and using as little layers as possible. Part of it was because of the lack of space I had on my iPad, and I didn't want to accidentally use too many layers because it does limit you on the amount of layers due to the space on your iPad, the size of your canvas, all of that. So I wanted to be very conscious of it, but I restricted myself a lot. So oftentimes if you see me sketching with the lighter purple color, I tend to sketch with like a dusty, darker purple, but if you see the lighter color, it's most likely me sketching on a different layer. I just want to be able to differentiate which is which so that when I need to erase whatever's underneath, I know which lines I'm going to be erasing. Having all my lines be the same colors but on different layers would be a little bit too confusing. Sometimes I do that when I do line art on Clip Studio Paint and it drives me insane, but usually I would have access of being able to press, I think it's like Control and Shift while clicking on like lines on your canvas. You can actually identify which layer you're on, so that's very helpful. But I don't think there's a way to do that on Procreate unless there's like a shortcut or something, but I would probably use it a little bit more. But for me, it's just easier to just change the color so we can see a little bit easier. But in the end, I do like Boothill's sketch quite a bit. I think it's just fun. Also, his character is just a fun personality. He's kind of himbo-y-ish a little bit, or I don't know how to explain his character if you're not familiar with him, but his facial expression's always fun. I do like the kind of mix between the robotic kind of esque design of him, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I might regret this when we start to color and doing the rendering process and all that, because mecha or metal, I do have to take a little bit more time to understand how I want to color it, because it tends to be, you know, shiny and smooth and very sharp as well. So I will try my best to be careful whenever we get to doing the coloring for him in particular. But I think we are at the very end for our sketch, so let's go ahead and go back to real time, and I'll come back a little bit later. So this might be a stupid idea, but it'll be motivation for me to finish more of these like little illustrations of characters both from Star Rail and from Genshin. So I actually chose these two characters because they were both very highly requested characters at some point when I've been drawing like any of the fan art more recently. So I am actually not going to be completing both in today's video. So I'm going to let a wheel choose, and whoever gets picked will be finished and rendered in this video. The other character that does not get picked will be worked on either off camera or on a stream. I might leave it as like a speed paint or a time lapse for a short or something later, but they won't be part of this entire video. And I think it'll be kind of fun if you guys can give me suggestions of one more Genshin character and one more Honkai Star Rail character, but I want to tackle some of the characters that I have not drawn yet. So please send me your favorites and I'll put them up against each other similarly. Like today, I'll show you guys the sketching process or the coloring process up to a certain extent, and then we will finish off the rest of the character in the video. I'm just using this random wheel app that I found on the App Store. So we have Beidou and we have Boothill. I know you guys can hear it. Okay, so we're gonna be finishing off Beidou. I will do Boothill either, like I said, as a short or as a something I do off a camera in my own spare time or for an art stream later on in the week or something. So today we're going to be working on Beidou. I did end up pulling both of them out of their folders just so you guys could see them a little bit easier. So this is the one I did at Beidou. So Boothill will be for another time. I was actually really excited to work on this one, but I think that'll just give me motivation to finish him more quickly after I finish Beidou. But for today, let's finish off Beidou. I am going to adjust a few things here and there because I'm not in love with the sketch per se, but it's just like small tweaks to her face that I probably need to fix, and maybe a little bit of the proportionings on her chest and waist, or like, I guess, torso area, and we'll figure out a background. And I think that's it. I'm probably gonna leave the rest in kind of voiceover as I usually do, just so I can focus solely on doing the coloring and rendering for now. So I'll see you guys at the very end and Boothill in the future. So like I mentioned, I don't know if this is going to be like a new format for a video that I would like to do as like a mini series, but I'll try it for a few more character suggestions since I would like to get you guys involved in it as well. And it kind of keeps me a bit more accountable in terms of having to finish the drawings for the characters, like I mentioned, because I do end up doing the 2 sketches, so eventually I will have to finish Boothill. And luckily enough, I did like Boothill's sketch enough for me to feel compelled to just wanting to start on the coloring, get to the rendering, and see how it turns out. So hopefully that'll keep me, at least keep the ball rolling for keeping the redraws going, as well as doing drawings for the new characters. So the background for Beidou, I ended up doing kind of like a sunset and a sea ocean kind of background, and I decided to just do simple sunset colors, and I start fluffing out some clouds as well. So I did some darker ones along with some lighter ones as well, but I didn't know if I liked the color combination. So Beidou has a lot of like brown and red in her color palette, alongside with like white, gold, black, the typical accessory kind of accent colors that I find in a lot of characters. So I didn't really include that in terms of when I was trying to pick my color choices. But for the background, I decided to put an overlay layer on top of it and make it a little bit more turquoise greenish. Now, it's a color that I personally gravitate towards, but it's also a color that I like to pair up whenever I'm using a lot more warmer colors that kind of bridge around orange or peach, pink, or red. So because of that, Beidou does have a lot of red, like I mentioned, and she does have brown as well. And I end up making it a little bit more, I was gonna say brassier, I don't know if that's the correct term, maybe more of like a copper color, because I'm adding more like orangey and yellow into her hair. And I wanted to have a little bit of that kind of like bluish green color pop in and out from both having it in the background, so that we have a little bit of that contrast, but a little bit of that kind of color into some of the areas to make a lighter shadow, which I think would look a little bit neat. So that's kind of the reasoning why the drastic change of the color difference when I first started the background, which had, like I mentioned, the typical sunset color from like yellow to orange to, I guess, like a purpley blue. And then I ended up changing it to be a lot more kind of like cooler in a sense, or adding a lot more of a yellowy tinge to everything to make things appear more green, I guess. As for process for coloring, I do end up changing my sketch to be on multiply, and I will make it a lot warmer and lighter, and then make a new layer to do all of our rough coloring. Now, I like to use the lasso and the color fill tool to kind of block in the silhouette of our character, alpha locking that and painting on one layer. I still get a lot of comments on if I still color on one layer and kind of like the reasoning why do I do that. One is just like I mentioned, I am a little bit conscious of layers, but also the idea of opening and closing of the window for the layers gets a little bit annoying. So I try to open it as like less often as possible, other than like having to add in like effects or blend modes, all of that stuff. Or I will just like try my best to merge everything onto one layer, so that when I'm doing the coloring or like cleaning up in the rendering, it just makes things a little bit faster, so that I don't have to hop in between layers. So while I'm doing the coloring, which is like the rough portion of filling in my alpha locked silhouette, it's kind of for the same purpose, but it also feels a little bit more painterly in a way. If I were to separate all of the areas into their own separate silhouettes and then colored them in more individually, I most likely would have went with the route of having to do line art as well, just to keep everything clean. But this gives me a little bit more freedom of being a little bit messy. I can let some colors bleed into one another, and then once we merge everything together and I have to do the cleanup and rendering, I can just focus on picking up any of the colors that are on the canvas. But still, often enough, I will still pick up a lot of new colors anyways, because I like having more contrast, or if I feel like I need more cooler tones or more warmer tones, I will have to pick up new colors regardless. So it only can help a little bit in my case, and it's just like a thing that's more like a habit at this point, I think, rather than having a very meaningful purpose. So like if you don't vibe with the idea of doing things all on one layer, or you don't like coloring where your colors are bleeding and blending into like one another, and you're having like areas kind of covering each other and all that, then don't work the same way that I do. I just prefer it that way. It works in my brain from doing like, oh, I want to color skin, so I'll color all of that first, because skin is the area that needs to be more or less the most cleanest part, so everything that I need to add color afterwards can cover up all of my messier areas. So we kind of work from general to specific in a way. I don't know, it might make your time doing like the cleaning and rendering a lot easier if you were to section them off in the very beginning and have everything super clean and crisp, so there's less things for you to have to kind of like sharpen or get rid of stray lines or having to adjust the colors so often. But for me, I just like working this way, so there's not super big of a reason, I guess, that I do it this way other than habit, and it just makes more sense in my brain. But the coloring portion, I think, went pretty smoothly. This one, I think for Beidou, the sketching portion actually took me over an hour to do because I just didn't really like the sketch. I think Boothill took me, I think, just under 45 minutes according to my recorded footage. But in the end, I think Beidou turned out pretty okay. I don't dislike it. There might be still like small things I would like to adjust later in the end. I did end up doing a lot of like liquefying as well. But back to real-time me, I guess. So I think it's easier for me to explain this in real-time footage, but we did finish up Beidou for today's video. Hope you guys enjoy watching me draw her today. I actually am pleased with how she turned out in terms of the rendering. I feel like she's still a little off, so I might liquefy her a little bit more at a later point. Maybe I need to have like more fresh eyes on it instead. But because we finished her, and that's what our random wheel picked, I will be finishing up Boothill on either a stream for a short or like maybe like another time-lapse video, something of that sort. But he won't be for a video currently, unless I, for some reason, am compelled to do another video for him. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but to reiterate, I would like to have another 2 characters, so please give me suggestions, 1 Honkai Star Rail character and 1 Genshin Impact character. Please pick ones that I have not done a video or an illustration of, and I'll probably pick either the top 2 most requested or the one that compels me to draw the most. I'll put them kind of like pit against each other and we'll do another little wheel. I think it's just a fun way to keep myself productive but also keep you guys involved. So yeah, I think that is all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me draw Beidou today, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!